Hello, and welcome to Character Class. This is my little show where I like to talk about role-playing games and all things revolving around that. And for those of you who have been watching my show for quite some time, you'll know I'm a big fan of the World of Darkness. The majority of my videos tend to be revolving around it. However, today I'm delving back into that pool of the World of Darkness specifically. I would like to talk to you guys a little more in just a little bit more detail, just to give some flavor, some background and whatnot to any of you out there who may be interested in playing Wraith the Oblivion, my all-time favorite World of Darkness system. Uh, Specifically, I want to talk to you about the 5 main factions kicking around in the Shadowlands in Wraith the Oblivion. Now, there are a number of factions. This is by no means the end all and the be all. For example, I'm not going to go into the Doomslayers, which is a minor faction of possibly one of the other ones, maybe connected, maybe not. It's been a while since I've read that book. But what I'd like to talk about are the hierarchy, which also entails the legions, the guilds, the renegades, the heretics, and the ferrymen. Uh, those are the ones that I'm going to talk about a bit. And we're going to start with the hierarchy. It is pretty much the biggest and the most powerful. Now, the hierarchy in Wraith the Oblivion is set up by Charon himself, has the Death Lords ruling over all who die. Each Death Lord is assigned uh, a specific cause of death. For example, I believe the Skeletal Legion and that Death Lord is the one that is him and his legion collect all the souls of those who die due to pestilence and disease and this sort of thing. So anyone who dies of cancer or any other wasting illness, um, dies of certain other types of things, it's all maintained by them. They're the ones that collect those souls. Any souls that fall to Stygia, that die of that have those death marks on them, by rights, according to the ancient laws of Stygia, those souls belong to that legion. Uh, one of the legions takes the victims of violence. So pretty much anyone that has died in war goes to the Iron Legion, I believe it's called. I could be wrong. No, no, the Grim Legion. Sorry, the Grim Legion, I believe it is. Um, Goes to them, and the hierarchy is also the one that sets up um, collecting the souls of the dead, cutting them out of their calls. Any dead that are too weak that would pass on to Oblivion and thus strengthen Oblivion, they are clamped in chains, taken to the soul forges, and forged into something of value, but also something that the act of forging itself is what locks them into place, prevents them from getting sucked down into oblivion on their own. So that happens. Uh, they're also the ones that the legions of the hierarchy patrol the streets in any necropolis, any city of the dead that happen to exist. They're the ones that keep law and order. They're the ones that prevent wraiths from crossing over the shroud and causing trouble in the living world. This is the hierarchy's job. This is what it was set up to do, but also to protect those souls that have come down from other kingdoms of the dead, such as the Jade Kingdom, which is the Asian kingdom of the dead and their afterlife, because there's different afterlife. So I'm not going to go too much into that, but that's the job of the hierarchy. And if you listen to the hierarchy, pretty much everybody, pretty much everyone who dies has a place in the hierarchy and belongs to it. You are basically, you're a member of this legion because we say so. and you're going to toe the line, mister. Now, if you don't toe the line, that marks you as one of the renegades, quite possibly. Now, the renegades are interesting in that they are those souls of the dead, but the only thing that basically links them together as renegades, because they don't call themselves that usually, but the only thing that kind of links them together in this loose grouping of individuals is the fact that they don't want to live by the rules of the hierarchy. That is the only thing you need to be a heretic, or to be a heretic, to be a renegade. You don't want to live by the rules of the hierarchy. So you're a renegade because of that. Quite possibly you would be an outlaw, depending on the hierarchy run place that you happen to be kicking around in. Possibly not. It depends on exactly what's going to be how your storyteller wants to run things. But the renegades are of vast motives and vast differing opinions on things. None of them tend to agree. If they did, they might actually pose a threat to the hierarchy, but for the most part, the renegades are just like, we don't want to live by your rules. And they tend to look at the other renegades and be like, we don't want to live by your rules either. So there's a lot of this back and forth with the renegades. They're very much kind of like the anarchs from Vampire in a way. Similar but different. Those are the renegades, but there's also the heretics, as I mentioned before. The heretics are not quite renegades, not quite hierarchy. See, the hierarchy has laid down from Charon on high that the far shores, which is where the souls used to want to journey to, because those far shores are where they used to believe that the afterlife would be. They're the version of heaven that you want, or somewhere in the far isles, or the far shores, I should say. That's what was believed. And way back in the day, it was found out this was not true, or at least supposedly that's what it was said. So Charon passed down a law. No one's allowed to journey to the far shores. No one's allowed to talk about the far shores. It is heretical to do this. Now, the heretics are the ones that still believe. There are still cults out there, brotherhoods, if you will, groups that believe in the far shores and seek out knowledge about them, try to go there, even though it is heretical. These are the ones that are the heretics. And while they may side with the renegades, or they may side with the hierarchy as it suits their purpose, their true purpose is trying to get to the far shores, one way or another, trying to guide others there. That is their goal. And they will see to it, even though it is against the law by Charon's code, they will see to it because they believe in it. They have faith. And faith can be a powerful thing, especially if you're a spirit. Next up, we have the guilds. Now, the guilds are, there's a number of them. One pretty much for each of the special powers that Wraiths have, Arcanos, or Arcanoi. One of them, I think Arcanoi is the plural of Arcanos. And these are the Wraith powers that let them manifest in the living world, let them cause like haunting-like symptoms, make the walls bleed, possess the living, touch the living through the shroud, all of these abilities. Each one of these abilities had a guild that was like this, it was their specialty to do this particular ability. But many years ago, the heretics and the renegades and the guilds all rebelled against Charon and the hierarchy. But instead of them winning, that rebellion was crushed utterly. And because of this, because of the betrayal of the guilds, which were in favor of the hierarchy at that time, the guilds were all broken. And it was deemed to be a crime to be a member of them. So they were all basically banished and disbanded. It's a crime to be a member of the guild, but those abilities were still useful. So they still got taught on. And as those abilities got taught on, so did the teachings of the guilds. Because the guilds just went underground. They still exist, but they don't poke their heads above the surface too much. Just because you have the particular marks that an Arcanoi will give you on your body doesn't make you a member of the guild. But being a member of a guild, if it's proven to be true, that is pretty much a death sentence for any race. But that doesn't mean that you'll automatically be assumed to be one. I mean, after all, one of the particular abilities that the Pardoners Guild had called Castigate, which is dealing with the shadow in every wraith and making it weaker, tearing it out as need be. Um, that particular ability is extremely useful to wraiths. Almost no wraith could ever do without a visit to a pardoner at some point. And because of this, those who have this ability of Castigate tend to be better treated, maybe. Not saying it's always the case, but it might be. To the point that the Pardoner's Lantern, which is a symbol of the guild, tends to be hung out outside of the shop of anyone who is a castigator, someone who can do this. They hang the lantern out to show, I can do this, I offer this service to you. And the hierarchy doesn't do anything. The legions and whatnot, they turn a blind eye to that blatant symbol of the guild because they can't do without somebody with castigate. It is a necessary evil, as are several other of the abilities as well. So because of this, the guilds have that kind of, they're almost better off in a way than the renegades and the heretics, but in another way they're not, because if you are found out to be a member of a guild, if somebody brings charges against you with evidence, you're pretty much done for. Whereas a heretic or a renegade, maybe not. Because one of the things of the renegades is that if you don't want to live by their rules, you can't live in their protected domain. So you got to live out in the Shadowlands, where it can be even more dangerous. So it's one of them things. Lastly, but not leastly, the ferrymen. Now, the ferrymen are a very special group of people. Charon used to be a ferryman back in the day. And the ferrymen are mysterious and strange, as well as very powerful and influential among the hierarchy, but they are not of the hierarchy. The ferrymen have their own agenda, their own purpose in the world, and they tend to travel around with their little reed boats and poles throughout the waterways of the underworld, doing their thing, saving souls and whatnot, but doing other things as well. It's very mysterious what the ferrymen are up to. Nobody knows for sure, though they do have some influence and some very strong connection to Charon himself. So what those ferrymen are up to, it is a mystery to anybody. But it's one of those factions that you all have to be aware of. Anybody who is in Wraith the Oblivion and who's playing, always be aware of the ferryman. If you see a ferryman, if one interacts with you, this is something not to be looked down upon. This is something not to be taken for granted or brushed aside. Ferrymen don't just take time out of their day to talk to anybody. So if a ferryman comes calling on you, you better listen. It's probably important. The ferrymen are also able to do things that no other wraith seems to be able to do. And they are quite formidable. Nobody, like a ferryman's boat, can be literally just left where he wants to leave it. And pretty much nobody, unless they got a death wish, is going to try and touch it and steal it. Because a ferryman's boat is a pretty potent artifact. But nobody in their right mind is going to try and steal a ferryman's boat. Because they know, chances are the ferryman will track you down. And they'll have words to say. So, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope I have shed a little light somewhat on the different factions in Wraith the Oblivion. I hope you all have enjoyed my little discussion, because that's kind of what I do here. I like to educate people and tell them about the cool things that can be found in role-playing games. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you like what I'm doing, please give that like button a tap. Give that subscribe button a tap as well if you haven't already, so you can be kept apprised of when I do new videos. And throw a comment in the comment section. What is your favorite faction in Wraith the Oblivion? Have you ever played it? Are you interested in playing it? Throw those comments in the comment section. I'd like to get a discussion going, because maybe sometime in the future here, there may be an online Wraith game that might be starting out. Maybe. I don't know. I'm still working through logistics on things. So do all that, the liking and subscribing and the commenting. And until next time, you all take care, and I'll see you around.